Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are all over the world. I am excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining us on the last episode. Can you believe it, guys? We're on the last episode of Wise Words on Parenting. But before I really go far, tonight I've got to I think I was just reminded again this weekend about the importance of family, of how much family means so much. I lost my very dear uncle yesterday, and it's thrown my family into a lot of pain. And I think that it's just continued to reiterate to me how important it is that we continue to connect with each other, that we continue to love each other, that we continue to reach out to each other. The story goes that he was the one who took my mom to the hospital when she went into labor. So, like, he's been in my life for the last 40 years. So I sort of dedicate the last episode of Wise Words on Parenting to him, Uncle Olu, and I just pray that his soul will rest in peace. And he would want us to continue with joy and happiness. And that's where we're really carrying on tonight. All right. So that's from me. Thank you. So thank you everyone who is joining us. I see you. I see you. I see you, Ronke. I see you, Ralph. Thank you so much. We've got an amazing woman. Like, I don't think we could have ended on another note. Like, this is going to be just a stunning evening, and I'm going to dive into it. Please tell your friends and family that we're here. Let them know that we're online. Let them know that tonight is the last episode, the sixth and the last episode of the series of Wise Words on Parenting. My name is Balale Enang. I am a family life enthusiast. What that means is that I go around finding out more about people's lives and checking out things, reading books, writing seminars, writing courses, and talking with people on how to make the family stronger, better. Because I believe that the family is the smallest unit of the society. And if we can get it right, our society gets stronger, one family at a time. All right. Let's fly into it. This woman is super, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage with me. I know I'm dramatic. Mrs. Tinuke Kuti. Yay! Auntie, how are you?
You. Thank
Well,
you. I'm very fine. Thank you.
you look
Thank
stunning.
you.
You look absolutely stunning. How you doing today?
Okay.
Are you good?
Am I on? Because
You are on.
it's
Um,
blurring here. I'm
yes,
still
I
on,
love.
right?
Yes, you are. You
Okay.
are.
Okay.
You are. You are. All right. So everyone is welcome to Wise Words on Parenting. Remember, this is about let the older women teach the younger
Okay.
women.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me? And I hope none of you're
Okay.
not on YouTube.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. As long as you're not on YouTube or any other platform, then it will stay stable. So don't worry, we'll be fine. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I
Awesome.
shouldn't watch it on any other platform,
No,
right?
don't.
Okay.
Don't. You'll see it later.
Okay. Okay.
That
Fine.
way it will be
All
easier
right.
and better for us. Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So let's
Okay. Yeah.
let's dive into it. Yes, everybody says welcome, Auntie Tinu. So I met you only I think first time I sort of got a radar of you was actually our first episode. And I remember a very dear friend of mine saying, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Balandi."
My auntie was on.
You remember, yes, that you would love this
Yeah.
woman, you would love
Yeah.
Tinuke Kuti, she's our auntie, all of that. And that's why, I mean, the idea behind this is that we actually look for ordinary women or men doing extraordinary things with their families. And I think that I'm just blessed to be able to have you on tonight. So let me ask you to introduce yourself. Who are you? Who is Mrs. Tinuke Kuti?
Okay.
Yes. Go for it.
Okay. So I'm Atinuke Kuti, um, a wife, a mother of four adorable young ladies, and
Oh,
an entrepreneur. Yes, I'm a minister of God, and I'm an edutainment consultant. So I work with children, I work with parents to be able to raise change agents that would affect our society positively. So I work with schools as well. And so I organize co curricular activities, fun, creative activities that would develop children, develop their creative abilities. And I also run a platform for mothers called Jacobed Mothers Circle, where I sort of teach mothers how to raise change agents in the society. So basically, okay,
fantastic.
yes. And I have a platform, another platform that is called Eye of the Storm. In this platform, I sort of help people to sort of help them navigate their way through storms of life. So I share tips that will build hope in people and let people know that no situation is permanent. It's just a temporary situation and they will come out of it. And there are certain things they need to do to be able to navigate through that process. So basically
Right.
that's, yeah.
Right, fantastic. And so thank you so much. Like tonight, to be honest, I'm really excited. So last episode we had a mother of boys, and on this episode we're having mother of girls. So we're really
You
gonna
know,
talk
poor
a lot.
girl.
Like four girls. That is
Yeah.
just epic. I say that is super, super epic. I'm really excited about that. Four girls.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So how are you feeling? I'm wondering whether this is I just want to see which is best for you. And see if you can come up a bit, that would be nice. Is that possible?
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's
Okay.
maybe. God is fine. Auntie, just chill. We're cool here. Very cool, really relaxed, really excited.
So,
Okay. And so let's talk
yeah.
about you. So you've got four children, four girls.
Yeah.
It's just excellent. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about raising girls. So, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whether you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, please tag your friends, share, tell them
Okay.
we're live. We're live on this episode of Wise Words on Parenting, and we're ending this off with raising girls. I think this is just going to be super epic. Thank you. Okay, so and to tell me in this season of life, right?
Okay.
How are you feeling in this season of life as a parent? Your oldest is how old, and your youngest is how old?
Okay, my oldest is going to be 22 this year. Yes, she's going to be 22, and my youngest is 16. Yeah.
That
Okay,
is
so so I give God all the glory for all that He has done. And I mean, I just want to drop this here before I go further. That really there is really nothing like a great parent. It's a journey. We just have parents that are doing their best, trying to do their best. Because I mean, I don't feel like I'm a great parent, because
really.
sometimes I feel like, oh, yeah, because sometimes I feel like, oh, did I really do enough? Have I done enough? You just always feel like there is more that you could have done. So when people are like, oh, your children, oh, and I'm like, okay, am I really doing enough? And then you're asking me now that, how do I feel at this season of my life? And then I look back and I can only think of, God's grace. I could just think of God's grace. My parenting journey can be described by Psalm 32, verse 8, that says that I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eyes. That was exactly what God did with me, because I never really had a manual, to work with. I just had a heart that wanted to be intentional, that I wanted to do the best for my children. And that was all, I guess that was all God needed. And every other thing, he just guided me along the way. And then looking at parenting, a mother's work is never done. Is really never done. In every season of parenting, there is always so much to do. There's always is like, oh, you've done this, but then you are into another season and there's so much to do. And like I said, I just thank God, for the opportunity. And every season can actually be, quite overwhelming if you don't know what to expect and how to respond in those seasons. So it's taking it one moment at a time and then preparing adequately so that the next season can be good. But one thing that I would say is that if you can get the first season right, I'm an advocate for absorbent mind. So I never talk about parenting without referring to that. You
We're
get the
coming there.
if you get the first 6 years right, I am telling you, it is easier, in the other seasons, of life. So basically, I thank God for
Fantastic.
the opportunity. Yeah, He has
And so
given
now
me.
I'm coming there because I remember when I started then researching about you, to see whether
Yeah,
just to check out the things that you have done or that you're
yeah,
doing. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, like absorbing mind sounds so good. And I think that there's a lot to learn around that. So a lot of my conversation is going to center on that. It's just we like to have
Yeah,
background and give background to people. So I'd like to ask you, as a first-time mom, what was it?
yeah.
How did you feel as a first-time mom? And then by the
Okay,
time you got to your fourth child, what was the difference?
okay.
And then I want to ask you about this. Do you prefer no,
Yeah,
no, no. Which look do you like this one or do you like our first one? Do you like this?
I think this is good. Yeah,
Okay.
I can see myself better.
Good. I just want you to be very comfortable. So Auntie, go for it. Go for it. As
Yeah,
a first time mom, how did that feel? And then getting to the fourth child, how
to the
was that?
fourth one. Oh gosh, as a first-time mom, I was paranoid. Oh, yes, I was. It was like, oh, this is my first time. Oh my gosh. It's like I want to get it right. So um I I bought this book. I think it's Complete Baby Care book. That's the name of the book. Complete Baby Care and Child Care by Dr. Stoppard. And so that book I read and read. It was like my Bible, because I wanted to know all the developmental stages. I was in the pregnancy and all that. So I read that book so much that I was ready for the childbirth. I in
Say
the
it
book I
again.
was
What's the title?
the title Complete Baby and Child Care by Dr. Stoppard. Yeah, I'm sure it's an old book. I'm sure they'll probably have a revised edition by now, possibly. But I read that book like my life depended on it because there was no training. We didn't have parenting coach and all that during that. So, but I just knew that I wanted to do things right. So I read that book, and from the book, I was able to learn a lot about breastfeeding, the advantages, the benefits of exclusive breastfeeding. I learned about the colostrum, which is the liquid gold, and that once the baby is able to suck that in, the baby has immunity. It develops immunity in the babies. The exclusive breastfeeding helps children to be intelligent. It helps faster development of the brain and all that. I read so many benefits, of it. And I was like, oh gosh, I want my children to enjoy this benefit. I want them to be intelligent. I want them to be strong. I want them to be healthy, and all that. So I made up my mind I was going to be exclusive, breastfeeding. And so I was on my way, and nothing prepared me for the fact that even though you have the desire to do something, it just may not happen as that easily. And so I gave birth, and my baby came out a 3.5, kg, and she came out hungry, as in hungry. She was sucking her way out of the womb. So, and I was like, yay, the baby is here. So breast milk to the rescue, and so she was placed to the breast to suck, and then guess what? I was not lactating. I was like, oh my gosh,
You're
what
joking.
on earth? I was not lactating. I was like,
No
how could
ways.
this be? I did everything. I prepared myself. I massaged. I used hot water. I did everything. I'm like, how could this just be? You know, and so, but again, I read in that book that says even if it looks like the baby isn't sucking or the breast milk isn't flowing, keep the baby still to the, to the nipples and let the baby keep sucking. And so I just told the nurses, I said, just keep her to the nipples, let her keep sucking. I was dead tired. But you see, because of my intentionality, let's put it that way, I was like, no, she must, suck. And then, of course, my mother-in-law, my late mother-in-law of blessed memory, she's my second mom. I loved her to bits, and all that. And so she was there and she was like, oh, Tinu, you're tired. Let's just take this baby and just give her a bit of formula. And then later on, I said, Mom, no way. I said, I have read about this colostrum. I want her to have it. She must have it. And somehow she just helped me listen to my wishes, or my desires. And she told the nurses, okay, just keep the baby at the breast. Just keep her on. First day, we were like that. Second day, the nurses said, excuse me, Mrs. Kuti, we are not going to accept this. Your baby needs to eat something. I said, but who told you she's not eating something? She's sucking. Can't you see? Then the nurse said, but you're not lactating. I said, but the book says that she would keep. And they were like, the book. I was
The
really,
book.
really, I was a case in the hospital then. And so, okay, the nurses then came and said, okay, you know what, you don't want us to give her baby formula. I said, no, I don't. I want the first thing. I want her to take this in. I want to do exclusive for at least 4 or 5 months, and all. They were like, okay, could we give her some glucose water just to help? I said, okay, fine, fine, you could do that. And so they gave her a bit of glucose water. And guess what? Like 2 hours later, I started lactating, So she kept sucking until she sucked her way through to the milk. And I was like, oh, thank God. But that wasn't all. No, 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 that wasn't all. Mm-mm.
So you
So
have
she
to quickly say the story because I have so much. Like I'm packing. I've learned so much from you. I must hear everything.
so 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 we went home and I was like, okay, now the milk is flowing. I love to breastfeed. So it wasn't a question of I was being cajoled to breastfeed. I wanted to breastfeed. So I
Me
was
too.
ready to do everything to breastfeed. And then we got home and I did not realize that breastfeeding could be so traumatic. Yes, really, it can be. But you see, because of my desire to do it, and I want to say this to mothers who are aspiring to do exclusive breastfeeding, yes, you need to prepare yourself mentally for it because I got back home and I thought, okay, all there is to it is just put the baby to the breast, and the baby sucks. That's all. Okay, but my baby is special hungry. She was like a special hungry child. She needed to eat. So she would suck the breast milk, she would sleep off, and in the next 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes, she's up again and wants to suck. And
My
then guess what?
gosh.
It was like there was not enough, so I had to keep myself drinking all sorts of, over in this part of the world, they tell you to take a lot of pap, it's like custard, our local custard here, take a lot of milk, take a lot of fluid. So I drank pap, I drank fluid, oh my gosh, I kept drinking and drinking. It was so stressful, but I'm glad I was able to do it. At least I did it for like 4.5 months thereabout, for her, exclusive, without water, nothing, just breast milk. And I was glad I was able to do that.
Auntie,
So that's on one side. So
Auntie,
I
I'm
was
proud
really
of you. Let me
so
quickly
I
show
was
you the comments. People are already like exclusive breast. People
is
are
it?
laughing.
Oh no. So that was on one side. And on the other side, I was like really, like I said, paranoid, very paranoid. I sanitized everything and everywhere in the house, always sanitizing to the extent that sometimes I would over sanitize my hands, every little thing, because I was just like, oh, no germs, no this. And then I was always checking on her like every 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, to be sure that she was breathing and all that. And then I wouldn't let her crawl on the bare floor. There would always be mats and all that. And I'm like, so one day
You were
I
in the
saw
COVID era already.
I'm telling you. So one day I went out and I saw a child crawling on the floor, on the ground with on sand. And I was like, excuse me, but this child is alive. Nothing. happened to this child? So why am I being paranoid? So since that day, I changed my style. I allowed her to go on the floor. I allowed her, of course, you can guess that by the time I had the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, I was a bit more relaxed, So it was a lot easier. Breastfeeding was a lot easier. I knew what to do. I could express. I realized I could express and freeze the breast milk. So I would freeze the breast milk. And I understand the breast milk can last for as long as 6 months if it's frozen and not thawed, so I could freeze, and all that. And so it was a lot easier with the, other three. My third child was the easiest. Actually, if having children was giving birth was the way I had my third child, I think I would
Yeah.
probably would have had like 10 children,
Oh,
because I
nice.
was at a party. Yes, I was at a birthday party when I started feeling some slight pain. I wasn't sure it was labor because it wasn't, really time. So we just went to the hospital, and we went back home to my mom's second mom's home, and then from there, I felt more pain, and she was like, "Are you sure you shouldn't go to the hospital?" So we went to the hospital. So I got in there. I was even wearing, pants, tight pants, and all that, and looking really jazzed up, and all that. So I got into the hospital, and then the doctors were like, "What's the problem?" Like, I'm feeling some pain in here and that. And so the doctor, like, they examined me. And then the doctor looked at me and was like, "Mrs. Kuti, where exactly are you coming from?" And I said, "Oh, from a birthday party, actually." And he was like, "If you were 5 minutes late, you would have had your baby in the car." And I was like, "Really?" Because I knew how I felt having the other two. It took me like 18 hours of pain, of serious pain to have the other two. So I was like, "Are you sure?" And they wheeled me straight to the labor room. And 15 minutes later, voila, my baby was out. So I usually call her, as gentle as the breeze. you
Oh,
know. So with
I love
her,
I love your, like, do you know, like somebody's already saying here, Chronicles of a First Time Mom. Clearly, you've had
honestly,
lots of drama. And then, a lot of us, that's, you read one book or the other during our first pregnancy, and
yeah,
sometimes it just doesn't work. So I'm going to fly into like deep questions with you, Mrs.
yeah,
Kuti. And the reason
yeah,
why is because just speaking with you, I realize that you have a deep passion for the beginning of a child's life. So let's just fly into that before we even talk about maybe things you like, regrets and things like that. Because I just feel like you you already do things about like antenatal in Nigeria. She is based in Nigeria, by the way, everyone. And
yeah,
you say you're an edutainment consultant. And I think somehow I'd like you to walk us through this very important part, actually, which is you keep talking about the absorbent mind. So give us
yeah.
like a 2 minute synopsis of what that is. Or in fact, I know
Okay.
this is really your heart. So go for it, Auntie. And please, guys, ask her questions because now I'm about to. I'm not even going through your questions. I really want you to just delve into why the absorbent mind. How did you get into that?
Into the
And
absorbent mind. Okay.
learn
Okay,
about.
so okay, let me start with the story of how I got there, and then I then explain. Okay. So like I never had, like I said before, I never had a working manual. Like, oh, this is how I should raise my baby or something. Never really did have that manual. But one thing that I knew was that I wanted to raise change agents. I wanted to raise creative children. I wanted to raise children who would be change agents in their society. And so I knew the things that I wanted to do. I knew that, okay, I wanted to be there for them. I wanted to be able to train them well. And so for me, when I had my first child, after my maternity leave, which was like 4 months, okay, and then I resumed work, and because of the nature of my job, it was so demanding. I left home very early in the morning. I couldn't even bathe my baby, so I would have to take her to my second mom's home, and she was a pharmacist. She would take her, bathe her in the morning, morning with the nanny. They would go to the pharmacy together, and then she would bring her back home in the evening. And I would close late and get back to her house late. And then my husband picked us up, and then we went home. And I did that for a month. And then one day, I got back home, and my baby was in the playpen, and I was like, oh, hi, baby. Hello, how are you? And then she just, generally just looked back, looked up, and what I saw on her face was like, oh, you're back. And then she then went back and continued with playing. And my heart just broke, and I was like, wow, now this is my first child. How can I continue to raise others like this? I need time. So that night I had a talk with my husband, and we both agreed that I should leave my job. And that was how my parenting journey, stay-at-home mom, started. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. 8 good years. Yes. Now again, if I knew what I was going into, perhaps maybe I would have changed my mind. But the passion within me, the desire within me to raise children that are creative, children that would be change agents in the society, I think that was what moved me, into it. And I was not really mentally prepared for, okay, what goes with being a stay-at-home mom. And I didn't even know I was going to stay at home for 8 years and all that. But God helped me through it, because along that period I was losing myself, because I was like, oh, okay, so is this who you are now? Okay, so you went to school, so now you're just at home watching cartoons. I watched all the cartoons. Right now we joke in my house, when my 16-year-old, by the way, still loves to watch cartoons. So when she's watching one of those her cartoons, and I'm like, excuse me, I have watched enough cartoon in my lifetime. you know I want to watch something else, because I had to watch all these things with them. I had to watch the programs with them, because I realized that some of these cartoons, some of them are actually no good. So you need to be able to sift through. So I watched some, and then was able to tell them, okay, let's stick to this. No, don't do this, and all that and all that. Okay, so going on. So that was how it was. And then I had my second child, my third, and my fourth. And I was, intentional in bringing them up, raising them up. Now, at this stage, I did not even understand. I didn't know the mind. I did not know, but I just did what I felt I wanted to do. And those are the things that I did with them, was I sort of borrowed a leaf from, the past. From the past, what I mean by the past, from my parents, though I didn't like their parenting style. But then again, we cannot throw away everything. There are some things that we need to pick from them and just look at what there are some things we need to pick from the old parenting styles. And so one of the things I picked was discipline. I mean, early discipline. For me, it was key that, okay, you need to walk your way from the top down. You need to look into the future and then start parenting from that perspective. For instance, you want to raise a change agent in the future. And so that makes you do the things that you're doing right now to ensure that, because in parenting, you are raising somebody's wife or somebody's future husband, you're raising somebody's students, school, you're raising somebody's friend in the classroom or anywhere they meet, you're raising somebody's employee, and you're raising somebody's employer. And so you have to take all of these things into perspective and ensure that you bring out the right products for them when they get to that market. And so discipline started early with my children. So I'm already talking about the absorbent mind stage. These are the absorbent mind stage is actually the first 6 years of life, which is from the
First
age
six.
0 to 6 years of a
Okay.
child. Yes, and this is the period when the child has the highest capacity to absorb information. Actually, it is such that during this period, the children are absorbing per second. Every second of the day, they are absorbing by observing you. That's the reason why you find out when you carry little babies, they're always staring at you. They're always, fixated, because they are absorbing, they are learning from you, learning what is right, because babies are born as clean slates, so they are learning what to do. And so whatever you teach them during this period is what registers in their mind as what to do. So that's why we need to be intentional during this period, because you tell them, you train them. That's why the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go. In Proverbs 22, train a child in the way he should go, and when he's grown up, he will not depart from it. Actually, I believe that this proverb has a timeline, and that the timeline is, during this absorbent mind. Now, I'm not saying that you can't, raise after the child is 6, you can still do that. But the easiest time to do it is in the first 6 years of life. So that is really what the absorbent mind was all about. But I didn't even know all of this when I was training my children. I just knew I wanted to do this. And so part of the things that I did was that as babies, they slept in their cots. Never on my bed with my husband. No way. They had to sleep in their cots. And I knew that for them to do that, it meant I had to sacrifice a lot, my sleep. Yes, I was ready for it because that was what I signed up for. So I put their cots were in our room, quite all right, but they had to sleep in the cot. And each time the baby cried, I got up and breastfed. But then breastfeeding meant that I wouldn't have to sit on the bed to breastfeed the baby so that I don't get tempted to sleep off and then put the baby beside me. So I had to sit on a proper chair, breastfeed the baby, I bob the baby, and then put the baby back, to sleep. And so I did that. And so so that helped to start developing independence in them. It started developing the thing that you sleep alone, learn how to sleep alone, learn how to sleep by yourself. And when the babies outgrew the cot, how I knew they outgrew the cot was the day I woke up and found out that they wanted to crawl out of the cot. Then I said, okay, you know how the baby stands up and raises its head, head up, and like, okay, so you've outgrown this cot. Yes. And so you are ready to sleep in your own room. And so boom, they moved into their own room. So again, this was intentional because you're also trying to train them to be independent, train them to learn how to sleep alone, train them to learn how to do things alone. So that I did with them. They had feeding, they had wake up time. I'm sorry, I am, when I'm breastfeeding them, you don't sleep off on the breast. Oh, no, I never allowed that. Because if you're going to feed, you don't sleep while feeding, you stay awake. So it was also part of the training. So you're sleeping, I made sure that you woke up and you fed properly, and then you slept. So it was all intentional. And as they got older, meal plan, they had a routine, snack time, a routine. You have to have a routine for them, get them used to specific routines, what they have to do. They don't just eat at any time because, oh, children are hungry, they just have to keep eating. No, you have to structure, what they take at what time and all that. They had bedtime, they had story time, and then I had a lot of music playing in the background. Also, I was intentional about that. Yes, I got this lullaby CD that has positive affirmative words, talked about daddy, sing songs about daddy loves you, mommy loves you, I love you, or songs about God, and all that. And this music played like 24 hours, almost, not 24 hours, almost, especially when they're sleeping. When they're sleeping, it was always playing in the background when they were sleeping. So in their subconscious, they were absorbing this. The four of them love music. They play music. They play different types of instruments today. The four of them, and they love singing. They love music. In fact, okay, I shouldn't say that on the internet. So they love, yeah, they love music. They love music and all that. So I'm sure they absorbed, all of this from that stage of their life. They played, they had playtime. I had Bible scriptures that I read to them. And then I also had this book, Foundation of Faith Kits by, I think the STEPS program or so. And then also character building kits, so which had coloring, scriptures, CDs, and so we could do some stories, they could do some coloring. So all of that sort of taught them about God. And then the CDs in the car that was always playing Christian children's song, so they were able to sing along. They learned a lot about the disciples of Jesus, learned a lot about the scriptures. Still today, my 16-year-old still remembers those songs, and she says, oh, when she's having her CRS, sometimes she remembers, when she wants to remember the names of their disciples, the song comes to her, and then she remembers, their names. So all of this helped, and because all of this was done for them during that period, so it helped them. Now, how did I get into?
Can I jump?
Yes.
Can I quickly ask you a question?
Yes.
So there are two things I really picked on what you said so far. One is that I've heard you use the word intentional a lot. That's one. And I'm hearing it with the things you're saying and also the things you did. For somebody, I feel like And then you mentioned about 4 books already that you used, apart from the Bible, the scriptures that you've quoted. Um, and some of those books, in fact, I'd like you to probably maybe send me some of those
Okay.
names so that we can actually
Okay.
push out to people. I feel
Okay.
like somebody says, Wusi says that requires a lot of discipline, the things that you've done so far,
Yeah.
and monkey see, monkey do. We know that. Now, I want you to touch on this before you go into how you then got into the training of absorbent mind. I want you to talk to me about, you see, somebody says, oh my gosh, did you experience this? Because you said you didn't know what you were signing up for, and maybe you would have done it differently. What do you mean by that?
Okay, as in staying
Staying
home
at home,
for
because I think that's what you were talking about when you stayed at home.
yes.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Okay. I think that will probably take me to the last question that you were going to ask me. There was a question. I mean, sorry. Um, talking about. Okay,
Regrets.
let me talk to my 25-year-old right now, because
Do you want to do that?
yes,
Go
because
for it.
if I had discovered myself earlier, you know, it probably would have helped me in my marriage and in raising my children, because then I would have known exactly who I am. Because you find out I discovered myself in marriage and I discovered myself in raising them. So, all of that could actually be part of the reason why I was feeling the way I was. Because you're staying at home for 8 years does not really take anything from you if you really know who you were or who you are. You understand? If you already know who you are, then you know that, okay, you're 8 years at home, you are still working towards who you're supposed to be. You know what to
Be.
work towards. Yes. Yeah, so as you are taking care of the children, you also know what to do in helping
Right.
your mental health. Yeah. But
Right.
because I really did not discover that earlier on, so it affected me. I can imagine sometimes my husband will get home and I'm crying, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Oh, you've gone to work all day. You're out there all day, and here I am. I couldn't even watch the news. I've just been changing diapers. And you know how it is when you're with children, as you're taking care of one. I mean, I had like my second and my third child. My second child was 12 months old when I was 5 months pregnant. Sorry, when my second child was having her first birthday. So you can imagine
And
at what
you
month
were
I got
active.
pregnant. Yes,
That's still activity.
exactly. so
You are
so you can
active.
imagine how depressed I could have felt when all I was doing was just taking care of children from morning till night, and just continued like that. And I was like, and so he would be like, "Oh, sorry, don't worry, it will get better," and all that.
Francis, so what I'm hearing from you, and you've made a very profound statement that as you were growing, having children, you were discovering yourself. There's something I've
Yes.
been telling myself, Bolani, give yourself grace. There are things you know
Yeah.
now. There are things that you wished you knew
Yeah.
before. And it's okay if you didn't know them there. As long as
Yeah.
now you know them,
Yeah.
you pick them and then you start doing something about. I mean,
Yeah.
just what I'm saying. That's what I'm hearing
Yeah.
from you. Hearing,
Yeah.
I'm hearing that you allowed yourself to grow. And maybe that's a major word for moms and dads
Mm.
out there, that
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nobody who comes out as a perfect parent. Everybody comes out as we're
Yeah.
learning. We're learning on the journey. In fact, that's
Yeah.
part of why
Yeah. Yeah.
we're doing wise words. Okay, so let's get back onto how you then got your. So I want to lump 2 questions together. How you got
Okay.
them to absorb it, the training itself, because I'm watching
Yeah.
my time. I have many questions for you, Auntie. Please, guys, ask our questions. Ask our questions about raising
Yeah.
girls. And as raised 4 amazing children, and then your journey into edutainment. Because clearly, from the beginning, you wanted
Yeah.
creativity, and you started getting it. So let's go into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go into that,
Okay.
and I want you to
Okay.
link that to their teenage experience. Do you understand? So I want you to
Okay.
link the
Okay.
things you've done also with their teenage experience as teenage girls. So it's
Okay. 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 So one of the things I also leveraged on was on my firstborn. I tell mothers, I said, get it right with your first child. Once you can get it right with your first child would actually help you in areas in terms of discipline with the other children. But if you allow your first child, because whatever it is that your first child is trained to do is what the siblings would copy.
Yes.
So I leveraged on
Yes.
my first child the discipline. Like I said, my first child got her first smacking when she was 9 months old.
And
Yeah,
see,
yes, when she was 9 months old. And what was it that she did? She was going to touch, she was touching electric sockets, and I would go to the sockets and then switch it on and off. And then the dad said, don't do that. And then she would leave and go back there. And the dad said, don't do that again. She went back there. So the third time, the dad didn't say, don't do that. So he just went there, took the hand, smacked it enough for her to cry, and then left her. And believe me, that was the last time she went there. So that I always tell mom, never allow tantrums go unpunished or uncorrected, because the tantrum you do not correct at home would display itself outside the house. And I cannot stand children throwing tantrums outside. Oh no, I can't stand that. So we made sure that we nipped it in the bud and the inside. And so that helped with, every other thing. So the training was, there, like I said, they were trained to be independent and they were trained to be self-motivated. They were trained to be able to do their homework
right.
by themselves. Yes, even from when they were in nursery school, they will come home. Once the homework, they go in, sit down, do their homework. When they don't understand it, they bring it to us. I never did any homework for them. I never, like, oh, you don't understand it. Okay, so let me help you out so that you can just get, all the scores. No, I let them, even when they don't, when I try to get them, go back and forth with them, like, okay, so why don't you try this way? And if she did and didn't get it 3 times, I left her to do whatever it was that she did and let the teacher mark it down so that the teacher can understand she doesn't understand it. And I would rather her score 3/5 in homework and get a 90 or an A in exam than her getting an A in her homework, and then I won't be there with the exam. So how will I teach her?
Yeah.
So all that training went,
Yes.
in on them.
Yeah.
Also, I gave them opportunity to play, expose them to different activities, music, art, drama, sports, and all of that. So they were exposed to all of that growing up. And so because they were exposed to routine and being engaged creatively growing up, it helped them during their teenage. So when they became teenagers, they just filled their spaces with activities. They were doing sports in school, they were debating in school, they were the call go to people in school when there was activities for them to do. They were the leaders. I have two head girls, they were all prefects. Yes, they were all prefects, and so they were engaging themselves positively. Why? Because these activities were introduced to them early. So I always
Early.
say again to parents, introduce your children to activities, creative activities that would help them so that when they become teenagers, they will be able to fill their spaces with that. And it is most important because what makes teenagers to go wayward is when they don't have positive activities that they can engage in. We take them to orphanages during Christmas period. So they donate towards it, they cook, we do soup kitchens, and they participate in it. They contribute their own pocket money. They donate it to buy, things for the orphanages and all. So we were teaching them to be compassionate, because if we're going to have a
Wow.
leader in the future, they must be compassionate. So and that just doesn't come by chance. You have to deliberately raise them to
Be
love people,
intentional.
deliberately raise them to be compassionate, to help people. So I must not come to your school. I must not be called to school because you abused somebody. There were some words that we never allowed them to use, words like stupid, fool. You don't call somebody a fool. You don't say somebody is stupid. So we don't use that word. So they're not allowed to use those words. And so, so there's so many things that you have to just intentionally, do. I had to do that. Now, let me go to the question of the absorbent mind. How did I come about the training? Now, after raising the fourth child, my fourth child was like 5 years old, thereabout, 5, yeah, going on to 6. Yeah, thereabout. When I okay,
Okay.
first, my mom, my second mom, when I had my second child, told me to take a Montessori course. And I was like, Mom, I am not interested. I don't want to be a teacher. So why should I
Who
take a
is your
Montessori?
second mom? Is this your mother-in-law?
Mother-in-law, yes. Yes, my mother-in-law.
I love
I
it when
call
you
her
say
my
that. I just
mom
wanted to
too.
clarify.
Yes, my
Okay.
mother-in-law.
Okay.
So and I was like, no, no, I'm not. I don't want to, and all that. So I didn't do it. In fact, she told me that she was going to pay for me. That so I would pay, I would sponsor you. I said, no, I'm not interested. So I didn't do it. But then when my fourth child was 5 years old, and then I mean, okay, no, let me start from when she was 1 year old. I found out that where we live in Lagos, Nigeria, we hardly have entertainment centers for children. The few
Yeah.
that are available were on the island, yes. And I lived on the mainland, and it was like, oh, we had to go to the island to entertain our children. Why? Why should that be? And so I have this Mozambican friend, Paula, who was like, oh, and why don't we had the same issues with having to entertain our children. So we are like, okay, let's try and put something together. So we came up with a family fun fair for children, because I remember growing up, we used to go to amusement parks and I had fun fair, but there was really nothing like that at that time. Yeah. So at that time, so we're not like, okay, let's put it together. So we did, and we put it together. It was a huge success, and so that was how we started our children entertainment and edutainment activities. And so from there, we started organizing summer school and other, activities for children. And so by this time, I was really passionate about it, and then continued with it. And I thought, okay, let me take. By the time when my child was now 5 years old, as my last born, I was not like, okay, let me do this Montessori course that my, second mom had wanted me to do. And so I took the Montessori course and I started at it. And I just couldn't take my mind off the absorbent mind stage model. When we got to the absorbent mind, something just struck a chord within me. And I was like, wow, but I did all of these things for my children. So this thing actually has a principle. So there's a concept to everything I had done all these years. So I believe that God took me there to see that everything I had done with the girls had a concept, and you did it during the absorbent mind. And I could identify with a lot of things that Dr. Maria Montessori said about the absorbent mind. And so for me, that was it. That was the most important thing I gained from that training. And I just took on that absorbent mind and I started my research. I researched on people, examples. I had, got into the Bible, did a biblical research. I said there has to be a link. And I kept researching. I did not find my biblical link until 2012.
Okay.
Jochebed.
Oh
And that
yeah.
was it. And so that was how I started my intentional moms platform called Jochebed Mothers Circle. And I'm like, Jochebed did it. And I'm like, this is it. So this is what she did. And Jochebed existed, of course, before Dr. Maria Montessori. So it was just like, I was like, okay, so this was what she did. Because how on earth will you explain a mother that had just 6 years with her child and left the child in the enemy's territory forever, and then the child grew up to become a Jewish change agent trained by the enemy? There had to
That's
be
right.
something,
That's
other
right.
than there just has to be something spiritual there. So, and I realized, okay, the first 6 years, the absorbent mind, that was what the period she had to put all her best to teach him about the Jewish culture, the Jewish God, teach him about what to do and what. And this child was absorbing it unconsciously. That's the thing about the absorbent mind.
Right.
It is called the programming years. You absorb all these things. The children absorb it unconsciously. They are programmed unconsciously. And I tell mom that, look, this is the period where you call the wet clay. When you want to mold, the clay has to be wet for you to mold effectively. If you wait until the clay is dry, molding becomes difficult, if not impossible. And so during the wet clay is during the first 6 years where your children can absorb unconsciously. And the
Yeah.
truth about the absorbent mind is, if you are not deliberate about programming them or letting them absorb the right information,
Information.
whoever is in control of that environment is doing it on your behalf. You just realize that when they become teenagers or adults and all that, they begin to manifest certain things. There are certain things that we manifest in our lives right now that were
Yes.
imputed into us during our
Foundation.
absorbent mind stage. Yeah. So
Wow. So,
that was
Auntie,
how I started the absorbent mind stage
mind
journey.
because I know you run Jochebed, and when we were talking and you talked to me about Jochebed, it made me start
Playing.
thinking Jochebed in the Bible. No, Auntie, let me give you space to just no, it's fine. I can, guys. This is really good. Yeah, I'm just allowing her to. She had to put on her earphones. Jochebed in the Bible was that woman who raised Aaron, Miriam, and Moses. And she did a
Yeah.
fantastic job. But I think there are a few questions there. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So we're going to
Okay.
quickly run through all our questions, okay? There's one here about confidence, but there's a big
Okay.
one, and I want you to actually go on to this one. So this person says, thank God you understood some things on time. What advice would you give where one did not have this understanding on time and they're now grown? Because I mean, clearly, a lot of people will
Okay.
come onto the
Yes.
platform
Yes.
and are older. What do
Yes.
you do? And then we're going to also talk about confidence in
Yes.
girls. But let's do this question first. If you have questions,
Okay.
please
Yes.
throw. Let's go. Answer
Okay,
quickly.
yes, I get people ask me that question that, oh, okay, because by the time I'm done my training on absorbent mind, I get two responses. Parents who are like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow, and the other who are like, oh, but my children are all grown, and so what can I do? Yes, what can you do? Yes.
Yes.
If if by now you're realizing that, oh, there are certain things that you've seen in your children and you wish that you could have help them to do away with at that age, and you were unable to impute or program this in them, it's never too late. Like we have this thing in our culture that says that it is whenever you wake up, then it is morning. So if you're waking up now, your child is like 8 years old, yes, welcome to parenting. So and you're waking up at your child is 11 or your child is a teenager, welcome to parenting. It just means that you
Wow.
have to do a lot more work. You have to become more patient. You can still achieve what you want to achieve, but you need to be patient. You need to work on yourself. You cannot begin to get angry with a child for behaving the way you have trained him to behave in the last 6 or 10 years and then expect the child to change overnight. No, you got to work from a place of patience. You have to be
Mm,
patient. Patiently
mm.
apply this principle. It's not going to be easy because the child is going to resist it. And why will the child resist it? The child is going to be like, you have allowed me to get away with it all this year. So why did you just
With
suddenly wake up
murder.
one day and telling me don't do this? So you need to be able to now reason with the child. With teenagers, you have to reason with them. When our children became teenagers, we decided we're going to start respecting, not that we're not respecting them fully, but respect their opinions more. And so the way we related with them was quite different. Was quite different. And of course, because you need to establish control in the absorbent mind stage. If you establish control, which is what a lot of parents, don't do, if you establish control before your child is 7, then your child would actually have no choice but to obey, because your child has been programmed to understand that, oh, mommy and daddy are in charge and whatever they are saying or doing is for my own good. And so once you've established that control, so when they become teenagers, yes, they're still going to do teenage stuff. Yes, they're still going to get on your nerves. Yes, they're still going to give you those attitudes, and all that. But guess what? They would listen to you. Why? Because they already know that you have been in control all this while. They may grumble, but they will do it. And so you need patience. You need to exhibit patience. So for that question, you need a lot of patience. You can still begin to try and train them and apply whatever you want to apply, but you need to work on yourself to be able to achieve that. Yes, it has to come from you. You have to be patient with them and gradually, help them through it. And you have to keep correcting. Even now, we're still correcting. You have to keep correcting, because when your children become teenagers, you're doing the work like all over again. They would pretend to not remember some of the things that you have taught them. So you have to keep reasserting it. Yes, you have to keep reasserting it, like, oh, have you cleaned up your room? They know they should clean up their room. They know they have been doing it, but you still have to say, have you cleaned up your room? Please go back and do it. Have you done this? Go back and do it. Like I said again, you will get the attitude, but then you'll be more patient and you understand that, okay, this is their stage, this is I cannot just order them around. What parents want to do when they wake up to whatever it is they have left undone before, is they begin to order the children around. You must do this because I saw somebody's child who did this, and then you come and compare your child with somebody's child. No, because you don't know the work that person has done on his or her child. So you can't compare that somebody's child did this, and so why can't you do the same? Did you teach him to do the same? So you have to be patient. You have to be patient with them. Yeah.
I think this is fantastic. Do you know you've just given a lot of us life? I promise you. Like, even I was thinking about it. My kids are young. I mean, my son will be 8, my daughter is 5.5. So I can say in a sense, I am blessed that I'm hearing this now. But sometimes too, because I was almost 8, I can see some things are formed. And sometimes I also get nervous that, oh my gosh, I haven't done this thing well. But you're telling me now, whenever you wake up, is
It is
morning.
morning.
Thank you. And then for parents, that we keep working on ourselves, because it's what we do that the
Yeah.
children actually feed off from. So that is powerful. Thank you. So, second question. If you have any questions, please, guys, we've got a few minutes left. Mrs. Kuti is your person. How do you teach your girls to love themselves and not compare themselves to other girls? And then how do you, basically do self-love and confidence? How do you do that? Let's
Okay. Okay. First, we never compare them. Okay, like I said now, they're all A students, fantastic and all that. But we have two of them that are like always either valedictorian, or topic. But so we never compared them with themselves. We never did. We never compared one girl to another girl because we knew their strength. My first child is very quiet, she's a bit on the reserved side and all that. My second and the third are choleric. And then this will bring me to maybe briefly talking about somebody talked about how do
temperament.
you teach your children to love themselves and not compare. So,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
first, by not comparing them with each other, you teach them love. Now, two of them, I talked about two of them were always at each other's throats. That is sibling rivalry. They were always fighting, as in serious, serious fighting. And for one of them, we had to actually use the cane, basically, the cane, because she was like an opinionated, child. She always wanted to do things her way and all that. So she was actually the most smacked child among the four of them and all that. And we had a cane called the yellow cane, which we used on her when we had to. Sometimes we put her in the dark room,
Sorry,
sometimes we put her in the
darling.
naughty corner, and all that. And by the way, I took permission from her for saying this. In fact, she even said that I should also mention, yes, that I should mention how at some point she was feeling like we didn't love her, that we loved her sisters more than her. Why? Because
Oh,
she was opinionated. But guess what? With all of that, eventually, by the time she clocked 12, she changed. No, was
wow.
it 12? Yeah, by between 11 and 12, she just piped down and changed. In fact, with her, I had to pray, and all that. God, with all this, I trained them, raised them the same way. Why this? But you see, so if you have an opinionated child, like I said, patience, then discipline, you cannot let down on that. But when you're disciplined, when you're smacking, you must let them know why. We have to let her know why we did what we did. And today she's grateful. She always tells me that I don't wish to have a daughter that behaved the way I did when I was. I mean, she usually tells me that, So I'm grateful she was able to do
Wow.
that. And so herself and her sister had this sibling rivalry. Why? Because they were close in age, like I said.
Rivalry.
And so they were always at each other's throats. And they were like the best in their class, the best overall, the best. So they were both everything and all that. And so how were we able to solve that problem? I stumbled on a book by Tim LaHaye called Why I Do the Things I Do, something like that. So, why you act the way you do. And so I took this
Yeah.
book and then
Temperament.
I gave them to read. So we all read it as a family. We read the book. It's a book on temperament. We read it, as a family. And then when we read it, we now all discovered our temperaments. Everybody discovered their temperament, and then we took the temperament test. And then so from there, we had discussions about temperament. And so that helped them. So we realized that the reason they were always at each other's throat, that they were both choleric. They were both achievers, both go-getters. So nobody wanted to step down for the other. And so, but because they now understood their temperament, they began to act, respectfully with each other. And then we always teamed them up. If there was a task to be done, we would team the two of them. You had better get the task done. So whatever way, if you like, fight, but the task must be done. So we did that, and then with the book was like magic. It worked magic, and that was what resolved the sibling rivalry. And they're good friends now. No more fighting, and all that. So all of these things, not comparing them, helps to build their self-confidence, help them to love. You must love them the way they are. Love their temperament. Don't say that there's no bad temperament. You hear people that say, oh, this child is too quiet. Why can't you be like your sister that is always hopping and jumping all over the place? No, never compare them. There is no bad temperament. All the temperaments are good. Their strengths and their weaknesses. Just help them to accentuate their strength and then play down on the weaknesses, work on the weaknesses. That was what happened. The two of them realized that we're choleric. What were the negative parts of choleric? They began to work on that negative part of choleric,
Right.
and it helped them to the extent that my third child, when she got to boarding school, she became the choleric expert. So she was like, oh, there are some people who are doing this, and she was able to know how to blend in and, flow with people because she understood the temperament.
Actually, you know what? I'm already clapping for you. We've got questions, and I'm about to round
Yes.
up, but there's nothing I can do. We need to take the questions. They're two big questions. I like the fact that you read, and then you expose your children to the same. No wonder they're like high achievers and doing well. This, I just find this to really be. I'm a reader. But I'm really excited about what you've done with your kids in terms of books that, Okay, let's take this quick one on YouTube. Which discipline method works best? Dark room, naughty corner, yellow case. Like,
all of the above. She didn't like the dark room. Oh, she hated the dark room. Oh my gosh.
okay. So all of
She
them
hated,
work.
she hated the dark room. I mean, what was the dark room? It was our study. So we just tell her nobody was in the study, and she made just go in there, turn off the light. Don't you put on that light. So the light is off, and she's all there by herself.
So guys, these are discipline methods, people. Dark room, naughty corner, yellow case,
And
my
okay, and then also you can also maybe deprive them of certain rights. Maybe you have planned that you're going to buy something for all of them, and then somebody becomes naughty, and you're like, okay, this is meant to be for you, but you ain't having it just yet. And then you give others. That also works magic. uh,
Okay, so I've got another big
uh,
question. I'll take a few questions.
okay.
Please throw your questions everywhere. Grand writer is laughing, laughing at what you said. So well done. And to look at all people are very excited. They said, wow, fantastic, very hopeful. So I'm glad. Okay, another quick question.
Yeah.
Okay. This person I know, she's got girls. So yeah. I find that my
Yeah.
kids have opinions that in my time it was looked at as a taboo to talk about, or say, should I
Yeah.
continue to let them continue, or should I still do like my mother did, shut them down? Very interesting question. What do you say?
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, I don't think you should shut them down. You need to listen to them and just walk them through it. Because I mean, you will learn a lot from our children. We learn a lot from them. And then this is the dispensation where they have a lot of information at their disposal. So because unlike our time, our parents will tell us this and we cannot verify whether it is true or not, and then so we accept it. But now even a 5-year-old can operate, and can get information. So of course they're going to have questions. They're going to ask you why. They're going to tell you, oh, why don't we do it this way? So when your child comes and says, why don't we do it this way? If you have the time, let the child, you have to allow them to make mistakes. That's one of the things that we did. We allow them to, when they want to do something, that at the end, this is what will happen, but you just allow them to do it so that, and you are there to guide them, because when they make the mistake, they'll come back to you. And then you're able to tell them that, okay, I didn't want you to do it, but you wanted, so I wanted you to find out that that is not the right way to do it, but this is the way to do it. So you need to sift through whatever it is that they want to do, whatever it is they're asking you, to do. But if it is something that is outrightly negative, of course, by all means, you have to put your stand. You have to, take a stand, and say, no, you cannot do this and that. And so that's, what's
Wow.
fine.
And to have my two last questions. Do you have any regrets? Anything you think you could have done better?
Oh, yes. I wish that I had taught them my mother tongue, you know. Here in okay, I'm Yoruba from Nigeria. My husband is also Yoruba tribe, from the Yoruba tribe, Nigeria. And we basically spoke to them in English. We basically spoke to them in English, even though, yes, I was like, oh, I was going to let them speak, let them learn Yoruba. But my husband and I communicate in English. So even when I tell myself I was going to speak it to them. By the time we're talking as a family, I'm talking to my husband in English. I don't remember to change to Yoruba to teach them. So I realized time went by and they can't speak Yoruba. So I advocate, today for mothers, because I understand that when a child can speak the mother tongue, when the child has a full grasp of the mother tongue first, the child has a better understanding of a second language. We don't realize that in this, parts, of Nigeria. We always think that, oh, the English, yes, that's what the children should know how to speak. We cannot alienate our children from their culture. We must bring them up. That was what Jochebed did. She taught him, he was in Egypt, but she taught him the Jewish culture. She taught him the Jewish tradition. So we must not alienate our children. And the best time to teach them is when they are still young, from 0 to 6. A child can learn up to 5 different languages. So don't be afraid that they will not understand English. They would. As a matter of fact, they would speak better English when they can speak their mother tongue first. So that was one of the mistake that I made. So right now they can hear it in beats when I speak. When we speak to them, they hear it in beats, but they really don't understand it so well. And the other one was the fact that when they were, after they were, maybe when they had crossed over to like age 10, 12, I said, okay, I was going to be having a me time with each of them, having 4 children. And you're like, okay, you're going to be having a me time with each of them. But then, of course, I became very busy. I'd started my business. I was in the ministry. So I became very busy. I never had the opportunity to, I said I was going to be taking them out for maybe to the restaurants with each girl, dates with each girl. But I really never got around to doing that. So but
So I hear
at
you.
least I knew that I spent most of my time with them when they were younger, and I was always at home because the nature of my business is such that I mapped it around their schedule,
Okay.
around their schedule. So I was able to be there for them to monitor what they were doing at the different phases.
So this is live from
So
South Africa. I mean, Nelly also says she regrets that
yeah,
she
yeah,
prays that they learn the languages Zulu and
yeah.
Igbo. So,
So for young,
and grandmother
yeah,
says that our culture is our identity. Yeah, wow, fantastic. Okay, 3 practical top tips, Auntie. One,
yeah.
two, three. Practical
Okay.
top tips for parenting. Me, I've already picked one, reading and
Okay.
all of that. But I'm past time, but this has been very
Okay.
good. Let's
Okay.
go.
So parenting is like baking. Making the dough is so important that it has to be done properly well. Because once the dough is done well, when you now put in the oven to bake, it reveals whatever you have done in the dough, whether it is good or not. So it's important to ensure that during the absorbent mind stage, you do it basically well. Second, be intentional. Be intentional with parenting. It cannot be by chance. You need to be intentional. And three, you are called to be a parent, first of all, and not a friend. Yes, not a friend just yet. Time for friendship will come, but you have to be a parent first before you can become a friend.
I see that you dropped that at
But
the end. What is that? That you dropped that one at the end. But thank you. This
so
has been
yeah.
excellent. I just feel what a wonderful way to end the series on wise words on parenting. So you say do it properly.
Yeah.
It's like parenting is like baking. Get the dough right. Be
Yeah.
intentional. You are a
Yeah.
parent. And to quick one,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a parent and a friend in parenting? Quickly.
I think you
Oh,
just wanted me to.
until like 30 seconds. Come. Let's go.
Okay. There's a difference between being friendly and being a friend.
Right. Yeah.
So that's basically it. Be friendly. You're raising the children, be friendly. But there are things that you cannot tell your friend to do. You cannot give certain rules to your friend. But as a parent, you need to be able to give rules to your children. So when they have reached a particular stage, then they can become your friend because they have learned how to follow those rules. And then friendship is a lot easier then because as a friend, you are sort of boxed. up when it comes to certain rules that you want, to give to your children.
Wow.
So, but be friendly, yes, and love them. You need to love them. Even when your discipline has to be from a place of love. If it is not from the place of love, then abuse comes in. Because when you're smacking a child, you're not smacking the child when you are angry. No, you smack the child from a place of love. And so don't smack when you are angry. Wait, calm down a bit and smack from the place of love and let the child know why you have done, the smacking. And I would round up, with this word from Dr. Maria Montessori that says that a new world order or a society can only be constructed by using the child as an instrument of change. So please let us be intentional in raising the adults you would like to see in the future. Raise your son to be someone's dream husband and your daughters to be someone's dream wife. Raise them to be solution providers in the society.
Oh,
Thank you.
wow. And so that is mic drop. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just, many people are saying thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you for the
you.
opportunity. Thank you so
So many
much.
people.
Thank
Auntie, you have
you,
been
everyone.
amazing. I'm sure that I'm going to ask you on another time to just please do something with me. I'm so thankful to have met you online. Never met you physically, but I just have been. This has really been excellent. I'm really thankful to you, and thank you for allowing God to use you. And lots to learn today. So everyone, this is it from me on Wise Words on Parenting. Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you, everyone. People are saying I should bring you back again. Yes, I will. I will bring her for something else very soon. And so I'm tempted to take you onto Instagram quickly. Let's just do like a 10 minutes there. But everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, everyone. And to just say goodbye to them as I
Okay.
wrap.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, family. God
All
bless.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Auntie. All right. So, guys, that is it from Mrs. Tinuke Kuti. Like this, I think this has been excellent. Yes, you're right. I'll let her know a difference between a parent and a friend. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. I thank God for the good looks. Okay, so on behalf of Capacity Growth Consult, which is a family life development and support enterprise on the platform on which we have been hosting Wise Words of Parenting, I'd like to thank all of you for being here for the last 6 weeks on the Wise Words on Parenting that we have done. If you haven't seen the remaining 5 episodes, they have been phenomenal. Please go onto my YouTube channel, it's Bolanle Enang, or just get back on my Facebook page, which is Bolanle Daniel Enang, and you will see it. And then I go on Instagram right after this and I do a summary. I'm going to ask Mrs. Tino to please come on with me. She runs Jochebed, Praying Moms, Jochebed Circle, and she's doing a fantastic job there. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. God bless you. Happy parenting. Like she said, when you wake up is your morning. Wake up, moms and dads. Let's do this. Have a fabulous, fantastic, glorious, wonderful week ahead. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye. Please kindly share, like, and share with your friends and family. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel and for doing the work. Remember, it's not just hearing, it's about doing. Good night, and God bless you. Goodbye. Enjoy.